share screen, go to Zoom. So we're at 7:34 already, so we should start the class, but I'll do a poll. Basically, this is the video that the person uploaded on Telegram, and I've been playing it, and I need to just feed it to an algorithm. It'll take like 5 minutes, and then it'll spit out a user ID for me from which I can reach the user most probably. So let's just do a quick poll. We can do this at the end of the class as well. Probably we should do this at the end of the class because this might take a long time. So we can first go here and do the class. That's what I would like to do. If I'm being honest, let's stick with the class first, and then in the end we can have some fun. But let me do a quick poll, and then we will proceed. I think either way we will do the slides first. What should we do? Unless it's like extremely skewed. Slides and class. Catch the predator. Save the poll. All right. Me pin myself, and you'll make it smaller. All right. Yeah, it's like 50-50-ish. So let's do the class first, shall we? And then we'll try to, it's not too heavy of a class. I've tried to keep it extremely basic. So feel free to come back, after an hour if you already know this. And if you are a beginner, then this is a great class for you. This should give you an idea of, okay, this is as basic as it gets. So if this also gets overwhelming beyond a point, is when you should think, maybe, wait a bit and then decide if you want to get the course again. Because I'm trying to now consciously make things very slow. So let me know if this isn't slow as well, and then we can go from there and decide. With that, let's go to the slides for today. Go to projects.100xsteps.com, open JavaScript 101, and you should see the very first slide over here. The title here is messed up. It should say 1 out of 5. But either way, these are the slides for today. Before we start, did you code yesterday? There were a lot of people. We had a lot of assignments. I saw 6 tweets of people creating the VS Code landing page. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to all the 6 people. There is Naman, there is Sushrut, there is Chirag, there is Varsha, Bharat and Parvez. These are their tweets. You can look at them later on. $25 of bounty for each of you. Not because it was a lot of effort, but it was, you showed up on day one and also gave me some motivation. At least someone was able to create the landing page. I thought yesterday went a little fast when we reached to the padding wala section. So great to see people make. Some of these people are coding for the first time, so they are average landing pages. Some of these are like good landing pages, and would urge you to build your own before the next class as well. I will also do an assignment. All right. Today's class is around JavaScript, the basics. Fairly basic foundational stuff. Actually, next week is when we will understand some more core internals of JavaScript. What are internals of JavaScript? How does the JavaScript engine work? This thing called V8, if you have heard of it. Why was JavaScript introduced? How was it ported over to Node.js? What is Bun.js? How is it different from Node.js? Event loops, callback queues, lot of very complicated things next week. This week is JavaScript 101, just to get you comfortable with the syntax. All right. So the basics of JavaScript, specifically in the context of web development, JavaScript is primarily used for web development only. You can use it to do 20 different things. Libraries like FFmpeg have been ported over to JavaScript. There are libraries like Media Soup that you can Google after the class that let you do WebRTC in JavaScript. There is also a library called WebRTC.js that lets you do WebRTC in JavaScript. You can do fairly complicated things in JavaScript. Primarily, like I would say 90% of JavaScript code that is written for web development, is written to create websites. So web development involves writing a lot of HTML, CSS and JavaScript code. Whenever you see any website, be it this website, be it this Google Drive link, be it any other website, it's just a lot of HTML, CSS and JavaScript code. How can you confirm that? If you go to google.com, you can actually see what google.com is returning, or what is making this page look like this, is actually a lot of HTML, CSS and JavaScript. There are a bunch of other things like images, SVGs, XML that you will get from the Google server, But primarily to create a page like this, maybe other than this image that you see over here, everything else can be created with just HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Let's quickly confirm that. People are raising hands. By going to google.com. If I go to google.com, try a local experiment with me for a second. Go to google.com, right click over here, click on inspect. I repeat, google.com, right click, click on inspect. When you do, a bottom bar like this will open up. This I showed yesterday as well, when I said, okay, all the code that renders this website is actually this HTML code right here. So you might ask, Kirat, then the HTML is enough. Why do you need CSS and JavaScript? We will get to that. But if you remember from yesterday, to make your page look a little prettier, you need CSS. And to do some extra things, you need JavaScript. What that is, we will come to eventually. If you open the network tab over here and refresh, you will see a bunch of files, or like something is going out, some request is going out. If you inspect all of these requests, right, you will see it is either an image, PNG, or a script, some JavaScript, or some HTML. All the data that the backend returns to you is primarily HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Sometimes it is JSON data, XML data, a bunch of other things. But to create any basic website without too much functionality, even a complex website, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is all you need. Your browser only interprets these languages. This is slightly nuanced. Technically, this is not true. Your browser can actually compile and run other languages as well. But for 99% of the web, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are the only languages that are running on a web browser when you open it. Any website you go to, these three languages are, what are making the page look the way it does, making the page behave the way it does. If I click on the next button over here, going to the next page happens via JavaScript. The fact that I hover over this and it becomes light blue, that happens via CSS. And the structure that you see over here, text that you see over here, is all HTML. Some callouts, if during an interview you are asked some of these questions, you should know them. Number one, React and Next.js are frameworks. You might ask, Harkirat, you are saying only HTML, CSS, JavaScript is what your browser understands. People to write code in React also. And the answer is yes. React, Next.js are frameworks. They compile down to HTML, CSS, and JavaScript only. If you go to app.100xsteps.com, this website is written in Next.js, but still the data that you get back, if I inspect and click on network, it is still HTML, CSS, and JavaScript only. So these are just frameworks. If someone asks, does your browser understand React code? The answer is no. Does your browser understand Next.js code? The answer is no. These languages will convert the code finally to this, which is what your browser will be able to run. Cool. When you run C++ code on lead code, you might have been like, Harkirat, you two are lying. You are saying only HTML, CSS, and JavaScript can run on, a website like a browser. Then how does lead code work? Oh God, this is giving me college trauma. Wow. I can't believe I just shared my password on stream. It's fine. You guys can access my, if you saw it, my lead code. All right. Problems. I will have to hide this later on. If I go to any problem over here, you might say, Harkirat, dekho, you said C++ code doesn't run. I will select C++ over here and I will run this code. Does this mean your browser can run C++ code? The answer is still no. This code runs on a separate server, a lead code server. It is not running here in Delhi on my laptop. It is running somewhere in the US, somewhere else. This code goes to a different server and runs over there. How does this code go over there? We will understand in week 3. For now, the thing you need to know is a browser does not understand and cannot interpret any languages here other than JavaScript it can. So if lead code wants, they can run JavaScript locally, even though they also run JavaScript on a server of their own. But if someone asks, what all languages can your browser interpret? The answer is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. it is also WebAssembly. You can actually run C++ Rust code in your browser as well. In fact, if you have ever tried building, or if you ever try to build, let's say a Zoom like application, a Google Meet like application, and you want to add background blur, or you want to add, background removal, all of these are usually some C++ code that your browser runs on a separate thread. Now, what is a thread? I'm going a little high level. I'm just saying a lot of times some expensive operations, for example, downloading a video or cutting the background if you're on a Zoom call, are done. That code is written in a different language. That code is written in C, C++. Your browser can run it through WebAssembly, but 99% of the times it runs, it is running, or most websites, I would say 99% of the websites are purely running HTML, CSS and JavaScript code. Okay. What is WebAssembly? It is just another target for your C++ program. What is target? We'll come into in the next slide. But basically you can compile your C++ code into WebAssembly. Your browser can understand WebAssembly. As the name suggests, WebAssembly, assembly code that can run on the web. So your C++ can be converted into assembly code that can run on the web. That specific C++ code you can actually run in the browser, but 99% of the use cases, technically you cannot run C++, you can run C++, but most websites you're running HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Also, the way to run C++ is a little weird. It's not as easy as just writing C++ code and hoping that your browser is able to interpret it. All right. Before we proceed, try doing one of these three things. Some of you might not have Node.js locally. If you don't, please install Node.js locally. If you do have Node.js, great, you're good to go. If you don't have Node.js, either try installing it locally or quickly create an account on Replit. If everyone goes to Replit together, it goes down. So try to create an account on Replit, in batches in the next 10 minutes, so that by the time we reach the fourth slide, you all have Replit up and running. All right. Try one of these two things. If neither of these work, that is also fine. If you're not able to install Node.js locally in the next 10 minutes, if you're not able to create an account on Replit, I will share a third way for you to test things locally, maybe by the time we reach, but let me give a quick of how you can run JavaScript locally if this doesn't work and this doesn't work. You can right click, I repeat, right click, click on this inspect button right here, just like we clicked a while back, and click on console. I repeat, right click, inspect, console. You will see a bunch of things here. You can clear them by calling the clear function, and worst case you can write JavaScript code over here where name equal to Harkirat. This is just some JavaScript syntax we will be getting to very soon, but worst case you can write code over here. Best case you can write code in one of these two platforms. So quickly try to do one of these two, and if it doesn't work, then also you have a third way to run JavaScript locally. All right. Let's get into some properties of JavaScript before we get into the syntax of JavaScript. Every language comes with its unique set of properties, features. Basically, whoever wrote the language decided that bhai, this language is going to have these set of features. For example, Goldman Sachs has its internal language called slang. I think I totally forgot the name. And in that language, you can write code like this. You can write code like this. Name, let's say variable person space name equal to Harkirat. Your variables can have a space in the middle. So every language just depends on whoever wrote the language has, weird ways you can write code. You cannot have a space in a variable name in Java, Rust, C, C++, JavaScript. But you can in slang, a language that was written by traders for, or written for traders by Goldman Sachs. So every language has some unique set of features that come by whoever is creating the specification of that language, whoever is writing that language ka compiler. JavaScript has some of these properties. Let's quickly go over them. Number one, JavaScript is interpreted. Interpreted and compiled are two types of languages. JavaScript is an interpreted language, meaning it is executed line by line at runtime by the JavaScript engine. Too many terms here. I will explain all of them one by one. In the browser or the server environment, rather than being compiled into a machine beforehand. How many of you have tried giving lead code or code forces contests and you're writing C++ code locally? If you have tried that, then whenever you write C++ code, you first compile it down to a binary, right? Let me do a quick detour. You don't have to run this locally, but if I run, quit this once. If I write some C++ code locally really quickly, you don't have to write it, but if I write, a.cpp int main return 0. If I write a very basic C++ code, don't worry about what it is or what it does. I can't simply be like C++ run a.cpp. You first compile your C++ code into a binary by running this command. If you have tried this locally, G++ is the C++ compiler. a.cpp -o out. Have some of you tried running this command? You might have, you might not have. If not, that is fine. But the point is, C++ is a compiled language. In this case, you first have to convert your high level CPP code into a low level binary. You have to convert this into a binary, which then you run. If I now run ./out, my C++ code runs. It does nothing because our C++ file does nothing. But if I had written some code in there, that code would execute in the second step. That is what a compiled language is. You first compile your code into a binary. What command did I run for it? I ran this command to convert it into a binary called out. And then I ran the binary on my machine. Versus JavaScript, it runs line by line. It is compiled at runtime. What is it? It is compiled at runtime, which basically means, number one, I don't have to go through two of these steps. The code directly runs, and secondly, code runs line by line. Python maybe the same thing happens. What does running line by line mean? It basically means I can write code in chunks. I repeat, I can write code like this. Don't worry about this experiment, but I'm going to do a quick experiment. I right clicked, I clicked on inspect, I opened console, I cleared the whole thing. And now I can write code line by line. I can write where name equal to Harkirat. Now don't worry about what where is, we'll come to it. And this line of code ran independently. One line ran. One line was interpreted. Then I can write another line of code. Then this line of code ran. As you can see, it printed Harkirat on the screen. When you call console.log with a variable, it prints it on the screen. If you don't know what a variable is, that is fine. We're coming to it very soon. What is the point of this thought experiment? To tell you that JavaScript, you can write partial code and execute it dhire dhire. You can slowly write code and start running it saath mein. Versus in C++, you first write your whole code. You first compile it. C++ compiler does 1000 checks over here. Makes sure aapka code sahi hai, your code is fine. And only if your code is fine does the binary get spit out. Once the binary is spit out, you can run it independently. Can you think of what might be better? Both of these are different approaches. This guy expects you कि पहले पूरा code लिखो. First write all of the C++ code. Then compile all the C++ code. Then run it. This guy doesn't care. If you want to write code right now, ठीक है, write some code. Then after 1 hour, write the rest of the code. Slowly, it will keep on executing it. Which one do you think is better? There are upsides and downsides to both the approaches. The upsides of what JavaScript does is that there is one less step to do before you're running your code. Compilation can sometimes take a lot of time. I repeat, compiling code can take a lot of time. In fact, you might have heard this about Rust. Rust compiles code really slow. The Rust compiler is very strict. You might have heard of this from time to time. It is very hard to write code in Rust. And Rust is extremely memory safe. Why is it memory safe? Because it does a bunch of ownership checks during compilation. Rust ka ye wala step, this step of Rust is extremely, time consuming. Sometimes people complain that it took 1 minute for a Rust code to compile, because the compiler does 100 things to make sure your program is memory safe. C++ doesn't take that much time, but Rust may, it does. Still in C++, you are first spending 2-3 seconds compiling the code and then you're running the code. Do you think this is an upside or a downside? You might think कि Harkirat, yeah, you have to do two steps here. So this is a downside. You first have to compile for 1 minute and then you have to run the code. So this is a downside. But the answer is no. This is actually an upside. Because the compilation happened over here, running can be much faster. A lot of checks that JavaScript has to do while running. JavaScript is running your line, compiling your line, compiling your line, running your line, compiling your line, running your line. Versus C++ upfront spends 2 seconds to compile your code. But once it is compiled, the final binary can be extremely fast. It doesn't have to do any more compilation anymore. It has, the final binary that it can directly execute. So this is actually a better thing. The compilation step, which most languages, Java has, C++ has, Rust has, Golang has, is a good thing because a lot of checks happen here. And when your final application runs, when you deploy this on a server, let's say, and it is handling a lot of web traffic over there, then it is really fast. Versus for JavaScript, it constantly has to interpret your code. So even though I've written this as an upside, this is actually a downside only. Okay, it is, as a developer, it is very cool. Okay, you don't have to press 2 commands. Okay, first compile the code and then run the code. But as in production, this is much better. This is worse. All right, that is 1. 2 downsides for this is there is performance overhead. Which is basically the same thing that I was talking about here. Okay, during running JavaScript code, it has to do a bunch of checks to make sure, to actually compile the code and make sure the types are right. A bunch of compilation checks that are done over here, JavaScript has to do during runtime, and hence, it becomes slower. There is performance overhead over here. Number 2, more prone to runtime errors. This is the biggest, call it red flag in JavaScript, or biggest downside of JavaScript. This is why TypeScript was introduced. TypeScript makes JavaScript something like this. You write TypeScript code, it gets compiled down to JavaScript code. That JavaScript code runs on your machine. So when we reach TypeScript, you will see we will make it closer to C++. We will make it closer to C++. We will introduce a compilation step. We will convert TypeScript code into JavaScript code, which will finally run. And all the downsides that I'm talking about, for example, the downside of there being a bunch of runtime errors, goes away when you introduce TypeScript. When you add TypeScript, then this specific thing is no longer a problem. A lot of your errors will get caught during compilation. If you ever want to understand how compilers work and what they do, try writing some TypeScript code and build the code, and you will understand what exactly is, one of the steps that happen during a compilation of, even a language like C++ are very similar to what happens when TypeScript code gets converted to JavaScript. All right. Upsides ye hain, downsides ye hain. Does it matter? It doesn't matter. JavaScript is easier to write, which is why people write it. There are performance overheads. People know it is slower. So unless you are writing an application where latency is of, a lot of importance, you don't care. You write JavaScript code, and that is why it has become so popular, because it's easier to write, even though it leads to a lot of runtime errors. Companies don't care about runtime errors. And then eventually I've seen the common transition from JavaScript to either Golang or Rust when companies need memory safety or, want to be faster. All right. The second thing about JavaScript is that it's dynamically typed, which means variables in JavaScript are not bound to a specific data type. Types are determined at runtime and can change as the program executes. A lot of jargon here. Basically, when you're writing C++ code, every variable, if you don't know what a variable is, we're coming in the next slide, but basically, whenever you have written some code, whenever you're writing a website ka backend, you store values in variables. For example, this daily code website has a title over here, JavaScript 5x5. This title is stored as a variable in a web server, let's say, in a Node.js server. That code looks something like this. Okay, if you've ever written C++ code, this is a very basic C++ code. We define int a equal to 1. I say, okay, the variable a, what does variable mean? Something that can change its value. A variable is something that can change its value. In C++, you can change the value. You cannot change the type. What is happening here is I'm defining a as an integer. Integer means a number. And then I'm trying to change its type. I'm changing it from a number to a string. I'm changing it from a string to a boolean. You cannot do this in C++. C++, Rust, Java are strictly typed versus JavaScript is dynamically typed. I think it's called strictly typed or statically typed, one of these two. Google it. But these don't let you change types versus JavaScript will willy-nilly let you do anything. Okay, ठीक है भाई. यहाँ पे as you can see, I have not written int a equal to 1. I have written variable a equal to 1. I can change its type. I can change its type one more time. Let's quickly try out both of these in Replit. So, or you can try it out locally, or you can just look at the screen. Either is fine. Let's quickly try to run this C++ code on Replit. What is Replit? Replit is a platform where you can come and run C++ code, Java, JavaScript, whatever code you want. How do you do it? Open Replit, click on create REPL, select C++ over here, click on create REPL. Now if everyone does it together, it will most probably not work, but let's see. It worked for me at least. Let me paste the code here. And you can see some red squigglies already. Do you see this red squiggly line over here? What happens if I hover over it? Assigning to int from an incompatible type. I'm trying to change the type of int to a string. I cannot do that. Even if I delete this line of code, it should still give me a compilation error. It is not showing me a red squiggly because Replit ka front end is a little slow. But if I try to run it, it says variable a set but not used. A set not used. No, that looks wrong. Can you convert? See out. Oh god, it's been so long since I've written C++ code. Oh, you can convert it into a boolean. Probably because boolean gets typecasted to something else. Let's try to convert a boolean over to a number. That probably we cannot do. Bool a equal to 1 and then a equal to Hakirat run. What is happening here? Let me run this locally. Replit is being a little weird. Oh, no, you can do it probably. Then let's see. I'm so confused. How is this compiling? G++ a dots. I'm trying to run the same code locally now. Maybe you can convert, or this gets typecasted back to a true, or maybe not. Let's see. Seems like you can. Let's make this. I'm sure someone in the chat already knows why this happens. Someone who's comfortable with C++. Let me quickly write some Rust code to show the same example. And I'm sure someone in chat can tell me why C++ lets you typecast. Someone already know this. Let me open chat really quickly. Is it typecasting from one type to another? Why can I convert a boolean to a string? Typecasting? Yeah, okay. Equal to 10 No, that I get it, then it will work. It cannot typecast a number, a string to a number, but it seems like it can typecast a boolean, or this string to a boolean again, and this becomes true. Never mind, ignore everything I said. When you write similar, at least this example you understand. If I try to convert this integer over to a string, C++ begins to complain. Versus if I write the same code in JavaScript, I repeat, if I write the same code in JavaScript, JavaScript will not complain. This code does not run. Why does it not run? Because it says you cannot convert, a, which is a number, to a string. If I hover over this, what does it say? Assigning int from an incompatible type. But can I convert a number to a string in JavaScript? Can I change the type of a variable in JavaScript? I can. If I copy this and run a REPL, if I go back to Replit and try to run a Node.js REPL, if I click on create REPL, select Node.js, click on create REPL, and paste the code, this code will work as normal. JavaScript will not complain, because in JavaScript you can change the types of variables. A number can be converted to a string, can be converted into a boolean, and the final thing that I am printing is the final value declaration that I've done over here. Do we understand this? Let me do a quick poll. We're also at half an hour here. So just to get a vibe check, how are we doing? Polls. Do we understand? Yes and no. After this, we'll be going through some more properties, and then we'll be practicing a little bit of code. All right, go back, launch. If we're at 80, if we're 90 plus, we're good to go. I think we're simple, so I would hope this is great. All right, 95% is great. Let's proceed. A few more properties of JavaScript, and then we will start to write some JavaScript code. JavaScript executes code in a single threaded environment. This is some new jargon. Single threaded environment. What does that mean, Harkirat? Meaning it processes one task at a time. Now this is not technically true. It can interleave between tasks, but high level, try to understand with me. Next week we will understand what do I mean by interleaving, asynchronous, and a bunch of other terms. For now, it processes one task as a time is one way to say it. More specifically, it can only use one CPU of your machine. It can only spawn one thread. If you have ever bought a laptop or a machine, you look at how much CPUs does it have, how many CPUs does it have. You pay more money for more CPUs. If I open my Mac over here and click on specifications, you will somewhere here see mine has 10 CPUs. So even though my Mac has 10 CPUs, and I can also show you another thing. If I open the terminal and run htop, it might not run for you, but if I do run htop locally, it shows me the 0th CPU has 78% usage. The first CPU has 78% usage, so on and so forth. I have 10 CPUs going from 0 to 9. My machine is, utilization is not 100%. It's, some 30-40%, as you can see. When I run any JavaScript code, I repeat, if I run, this JavaScript code locally, it can only use one core of my machine at a time. It can only use one CPU of my machine at a time. At max, I can make one of these go to 100%, but not all of these. There are ways to do that also, but technically JavaScript is single threaded. And in JavaScript, if I run the most expensive JavaScript code locally, even then JavaScript will only be able to use one of these cores. It will not be able to make everything 100%. It will be able to make one thing 100%. Why? Because JavaScript is single threaded. It lets you run a single thread. What is a thread? This is a operating system concept, but a thread is, a single execution layer of a language. Too jargony, but basically think of it this way. Okay, if you are writing JavaScript code, if I've written this code will run line by line on a single thread, which means first this line of code will be running on a thread, then this line of code will be running on the same thread, then this, then this. I kept a single thread busy for, let's say 5 milliseconds when it was doing this and then this and then this and then this. A single thread was occupied. All the other threads, or more specifically, a single thread runs on a single CPU, which is why only a single CPU was occupied. All the other CPUs were not occupied. Let me show this with a very quick example, which you don't have to worry too much about right now. But there is this thing called loops in JavaScript. I repeat, there is this thing called loops. And what I'm doing here is running an infinite loop. I repeat, I'm running an infinite loop over here, which means this code will keep running infinitely until I stop it. If I run this, you will see it doesn't stop only. It keeps on running infinitely. You would expect, if you're running such an expensive code, it runs on it uses all of the cores of my machine. It runs really fast. This is equivalent to a very expensive operation, right? For example, converting your MP4 into MP3 or creating subtitles for your MP4 file. These are all expensive operations. Whenever I transcode videos after a class and I look at, the CPU usage, it goes to 100% on all cores. My machine is completely being used to do an expensive operation whenever I'm converting videos after a class. But when I'm running this JavaScript code, then everything will not be at 100%. Only one of them will be at 100%. If I quickly run this JavaScript code locally. Let me put it in an index.js file. Let me run this index.js file. I am running this index.js file infinitely over here. It is running an expensive operation, which does nothing right now, just goes over a variable and it increases its value. That is what this a++ does. If you don't understand the syntax, it is fine. If I type htop, you will see it says this process node index.js. If you can see this, node index.js is using 98.5% of the CPU, 98.9% of the CPU. It is using one CPU. It doesn't use one CPU. The thing is, when you create a thread, sometimes you run here, sometimes you run here, sometimes you run here, but you only run at one CPU at a time. And if you look at the total usage here, it says 97%. It means, or whatever, very close to 100%. It means I'm able to use only 100% of the 1000% capacity I have. I have 100% capacity here, 100% capacity here, so on and so forth. My machine has 100 over here. Doesn't mean I'm using all of them to 100%. 100 over here means I'm using one of them to full capacity. I'm not able to use the rest. I can actually run some program here which will take this to 200%. If I write some Rust code, I can make this 300%, 400%. So Rust mein, Golang mein, any other language like this, if you're writing code, you can use all of your vCPUs, which basically means, something like this. You can make everything go up to 100%. You can literally see your CPU fuming. In fact, if I run a ffmpeg command over here, a video conversion command, I can show all of these go up to 100%. I don't want to, because then Zoom will begin to chop out a bit. But there are processes that are written in C++, Rust, Java that let you use all of your CPUs. Why? Because these languages are multi-threaded. They let you create a bunch of threads. My next YouTube video on Rust will cover this in a little more detail in case you want to understand how these are slightly better languages compared to JavaScript, because JavaScript is single threaded. All right. One last property before we proceed and write some code. I will also do a small break after this. JavaScript automatically manages memory allocation and deallocation through a garbage collector. If you have gone through my Rust video, or if you have generally in the past done memory management in C++, you will realize there are three ways a language does memory management. Now, what is memory management, Harkirat? Basically, whenever you're writing code, for example, I've written this code, this variable is stored somewhere in memory, somewhere in RAM. So storing data in there, changing data in there, removing data from memory is what's called garbage collection, or memory management more specifically. I repeat, whenever you run any C++ code, Node.js code, Java code, your machine has something called the RAM, random access memory, where your program actually runs. I repeat, if I run node index.js, it is actually running somewhere here in my RAM. And memory management means here, whenever I create new variables, I take some memory over here. Whenever I delete that variable, I should free up that memory so that other processes can take it. RAM is really small. On my machine, it's only 64 GB. So if I have a Node.js process running, I also have a, let's say, C++ process running. I also have a Rust program running. They all have to share the same memory. So whoever is writing the language or whoever is writing the code needs to do memory management well. If you start to take up the whole memory, then other programs will not be able to fit in. So you need to make sure you do memory management well. In Rust, the developer has to do it. In JavaScript, the garbage collector does it. So if you go through these three types, I introduced this in the first Rust video. Okay, there are three ways languages do memory management. There is either the garbage collector approach, which, as the name suggests, your language compiler itself collects garbage from time to time. From time to time, it cleans up. This variable is no longer used. Let me free up this memory. This variable is no longer used. Let me free up this memory, like that. That is what a language that has a garbage collector does. These garbage collectors are written by smart people. Usually there are no memory issues that happen here. What are memory issues? We'll get to. But the memory management is offloaded to a garbage collector. This also makes these languages slower than these other two types, because the garbage collector has, to constantly keep doing some work. Java and JavaScript are both languages that use a garbage collector. These are the two other ways to do it. I'm not going into them, but feel free to go through the Rust video if you want to understand what is manual memory management and how Rust does memory management. But for now, we're going to stick to JavaScript. What is the jargon? How does JavaScript do memory management? The answer is using a garbage collector. All right, cool. Final conclusion: is JavaScript a good language? Yes and no. It is beginner friendly. Python and JavaScript are both interpreted, do not have types. You can introduce types in JavaScript. You can also introduce types in Python, but primarily they weren't meant to be type safe languages. They weren't meant to have, things like this int a equal to something. They are simply variable. Any type does not matter. So they were primarily meant to be beginner friendly languages, but that gives them the downsides of, number one, single threaded nature makes them not scale very well. Number two, they are slow because of the garbage collector. Number three, they are slow because they're interpreted. They don't have a separate compilation step. So whenever you're creating a company, whenever a starter is starting up, they will decide based on these trade-offs. Okay, do you want to move fast? In which case use JavaScript, easier to write code, easier to find engineers. Or do you want to, build an extremely memory safe application using Rust C++, in which case you go the other route. All right, cool. We will take a small break and then we will proceed. We're at 8:15 now. Let's take a small 5-minute break. I will answer some questions and then we will go from there. The slides are completely messed up. Let's see. The next slide is this one, JavaScript, the basics. All right. Feel free to go from here in case you're facing some issues like this. All right. I'm going to look at Q&A for 5 minutes and then we will proceed and write some basic JavaScript code. Oh boy. Sorry, the slides are full messed up. The next slide is this one, syntax of JavaScript. This is the next slide we have to go to, which seems like for me it is one, for you it might be something else. Either way, just go from here to syntax of JavaScript. Q&A. All right, let's look at कल बार VS Code clone पूरा बनाओ. Problem आ रही है. Yes, I will do that in an assignment. So next week you will find a video where I will create the VS Code ka landing page clone. Slides are present on projects.100xsteps.com. Scroll to the end, you will find it. You can access the slides by going to projects.100xsteps.com. Scroll to the end, you will find JavaScript 101. Click on Explore. And seems like the slides are a little messed up. Someone should fix this. The code for this is open source. But go here and then click on jump to and then click on syntax of JavaScript. That is what we're covering. Next, this order is a little messed up right now. How you run your CPU, what does that mean? C++1. In C++1 means true and 0 mean false. So the conversion is working. That makes sense. I was thinking the same. There's some sort of typecasting that is happening. Eventually, we have to learn also. What does that mean? Can I make iOS app? Okay, these are a little tailwind. Should we do DS and JavaScript? Probably not. Is CSS done? No, I'll cover it a little bit more in an offline video while I build VS Code. How is the session started? Oh, you should receive an invite on email. If you have not, then check your email on the account, change it if you think it's wrong, or ping rookie. Where is the code for projects? It is present on github.com/code100x/dailycode. In case you want to fix this issue for today, you can find it over here. Can we make decentralized? Very bearish on decentralized, anything that doesn't need to be decentralized. But yeah, is garbage collection happening on the browser? And if yes, browser is outdated, which means browser won't do garbage collection. No, garbage collection happens in JavaScript on browser. And if yes, it does happen in the JavaScript engine running inside the browser. If the browser is outdated, doesn't matter how old the browser is. Whenever the browser was created, there was a JavaScript engine in there. That engine does have a garbage collector that is, constantly connecting garbage. DevOps will start in like a month and a half, not before that, based on the current pace. I will make the VS Code landing page, upload to Twitter once done with the class. Alrighty. You said JavaScript is an interpreted language, but it is just in-time compiled language. Yes, more technically, JIT is what JavaScript is, and not. It is also interpreted. It's like very thin line between it being an interpreted language or a JIT. But yes, sure. If you want to be interview correct in technically 100% correct in an interview, there is like some more depth in here that I never really got into. But yes, sure. It is a just in-time interpreted language or just in-time compiled language. Where do we find the class recordings? On app.100xsteps.com. All right, one more minute, then we will start. Why did stop not go to 100? No, it's not that. Oh, you're saying few things, like it was at 95% here, and the reason for that was, it is not necessary that my JavaScript program always gets the CPU. There are 100 applications I'm running, right? So it wasn't able to get assigned to a CPU 5% of the times, which is why it was 95. And why did one of these not go to 100? Is because whenever any program runs, it is not running on a single thing and fuming it. It is context switching between various, different CPUs, which is why, 10% it did here, 20% it did here, 30% it did here. That is why you did not see one spike up to 100%. Could you please change timing? We will do a poll, and based on the poll, we will change the timings. But either way, 8 to 9 will always be there. So if it's 8 to 9, you're anyways screwed. You don't need to master CSS before doing JavaScript. Just understand it enough to write a few landing pages and then move on. We'll come back to CSS when we do Tailwind. Alrighty, let's get right into it. 8:20. We are going to now write some JavaScript code, get our hands dirty. We can get more deep. We will get deeper into JavaScript next week when we understand the JavaScript engine, asynchronous nature of JavaScript, callbacks, things like these. But we might not get into, things that are not important, which basically means, some more properties of JavaScript, which we can if need be, but we'll decide. This is great. What we've learned until now, we understand high level of JavaScript. Let's get our hands a little dirty. Let's start to write some JavaScript code before, we end the class. Let me do a quick poll to understand how many of you already know this. So, you also have a good idea. Have you already written all of these things? Do you understand objects, more complex objects? For example, do you understand this code that is written over here? Are you already able to understand what this does? Are you already able to do the assignment that's written over here? Yeah, this one's an empty assignment, but is this code comfortable to you already? Yes or no? Okay. 60% yes, 40% no. Great. That is great. So, that makes a lot of sense for us to do this class then, because 40% is a very big number. Let's get into the syntax of JavaScript. Let's start to write some code now. What is syntax? Whenever you are writing any application, any website, you are writing some code, right? Syntax means, how can you write code in that specific language? For example, if you want to write code in C++, you write code like this. This is how that code gets, the compiler understands code that looks like this. In JavaScript, the compiler understands code that looks like this. So the syntax means how can you write the code of that specific language that the compiler understands. For JavaScript, number one, this is how you define variables. Firstly, what are variables? I said this a few times today, but variables are used to store data. Whenever you are writing any program, if you have ever written any lead code in the past, you might have created variables. As the name suggests, it is something whose value can change. And in JavaScript, their type can also change. So both the type and the value can change. In JavaScript, you declare variables using where, let, or const. There are 3 ways to declare a variable in JavaScript. Let's quickly try all 3 of these. Number 1, let name equal to John. Let's go to Replit. If you want to run it locally, run it locally. If you want to run it on Replit, you can run it on Replit. If neither works, then as I said, right click on inspect, and then start to write the code over here. So, if the code is let name equal to John, then you can write it here as well. Here it will get compiled line by line. Here you can click on the run button, it'll run the whole thing. All right. If I do a console.log name, I see John over here. So feel free to write the code here, but let me copy these 3 lines of code, paste them here, and see what does it say. Let me remove the comments. I have defined 3 variables. What is a variable? Something whose value can change. Let me try to print these variables. If you have done C++, you might have written cout. Similarly here, or in case of Java, you might have written, system.out.println, something like this. Similarly, in JavaScript, you write console.log, let's say name, and then age, and then is student. And if I run this, it logs John over here. Notice it does not log name over here. You shouldn't write it as a name. You can write it as first name, because as you hover over here, it says name is depreciated. So just change the variable name to be first name over here. I define these three variables. I log the value of the variable. Notice John gets printed over here, 30 gets printed over here, true. First name doesn't get printed over here. I repeat, you might think, yeah, what should get printed over here is first name, because I've written first name here. But first name is a variable whose value is this. The value is what gets printed over here. Let me change this to Harkirat. You will see Harkirat getting printed over here. This is a program, right? In the end, now this is a dumb program. You can write bigger programs that, create a game that print a human that is moving on a screen. But this is also sort of a program. It's a useless program, but it prints things on the screen. What do you think happens when I put double quotes over here? Small thought experiment. Rather than printing the variable first name, I say print the string first name. Now if I run it, first name gets printed. John doesn't get printed. It is similar to me copying Harkirat from here and pasting it over here. Run. Harkirat gets printed over here. So what does that tell you? That tells you if you put double quotes around it, then you are not printing the first name variable. You are printing the actual value inside the variable. All right. Hopefully that is straightforward to understand. Okay. If you don't put double quotes, then you're printing the variable. If you put double quotes, you are printing a fresh string over there called, whose value is first name. Now the value of first name you are printing. Now the variable first name you are printing. All right. If I click on run, I see Harkirat 30 true. Cool. What was the name of these things? They were called variables, which means, can I change its value? Yes, we can. Let's just stick to one of these. Let's say, where is student equal to true? And then I say is student equal to Harkirat. Then I say is student equal to 10. If I print is student now, what do you think gets printed? 10 gets printed, because the value was overridden over here, then overridden over here, and the final is student value got printed. We went line by line. This line ran first. It set the value to true. But then this line overrode the value. Then this line overrode the value. And then finally, last value got printed. If I put the same log over here, then it will first print it true. Then the value will get changed. Then the value will get changed again. And then it will print 10. So if I run this now, I first see true, then see 10. All right. That is what top to line execution. Execution happens from one line to the next line to the next line to the next line. So this gets executed, then this gets executed. The value here is true. Then the value changes to Harkirat. Then it changes again to 10, and then 10 gets printed over here. Try to write this code, take a minute, and then I will proceed. Next 1 minute, let me just quickly look at Q&A. But take a minute to do this, then you will understand maybe the difference between where, let, and const. Q&A. So students are getting refunds 3 days or over. You just mail, you will receive it. What are the username for Twitter? What was the username for Twitter? What does that mean? Should I watch the lecture for revising? No, if you know this, drop off. You don't have to stay. If you think, as I said, if you understand the last thing, there's a drop off. If you want to do some Telegram fun in the end, then come back around 9:15ish. But yeah, otherwise, CSS basics we will cover in an offline video. Then we will cover when we reach Tailwind. I'm using iTerm 2. Should we make handwritten notes? It depends on the person. I've seen some people it helps out. Usually, maybe create Notion, notes. Create online docs rather than writing handwritten notes. All right. Why am I not using VS Code? Just to keep things simple. Why every time undefined is returned in the console? It also prints the value that is returned from that function, which is why you see undefined. When you do a where a equal to Harkirat, this function calls returns nothing, which is why you see undefined over here. And every line of code does that. What is the meaning of depreciated? It means JavaScript is telling you, okay, don't use this. Depreciated in English means कि do not use this. It is depreciated. We are telling you कि ये गंदा है. Don't do this. And why are they saying कि don't use name? Because name is like a reserved keyword, right? If I write whatever JavaScript over here, that is fine. But if I write, let's say, class over here, that is also fine. But there are some words that are reserved for the language. It says कि भाई ये word ना can create a conflict. The JavaScript engine might need this word. So please don't use the word name. It is depreciated. That is what depreciated means. All right. Can we now understand the difference between var, let, and const? There are three ways to create variables: var, let, and const. Traditionally, there was just one way. Var was the only way to define a variable. Then people realized, there might be better ways. There were some downsides of var. For example, there are some downcomings of var. It's not what's called block scoped. It is function scoped. What does that mean? It just means, it does weird things sometimes you don't expect it to. I'll give one example very soon. But to overcome those problems, let and const came into the picture. What are let and const? Let lets you define a variable very similar to var. So wherever you might have been using var until whatever 2015, 2016, when let and const were introduced, you replaced it with let. You said, rather than doing variable a equal to something, I will do let a equal to something. That was the first transition you 100% should have made whenever this let and const were introduced. Today, you are ever writing code, forget where even exists. Forget where even exists. The only two ways to define let variables for you should be let or const. Do not ever use where. Okay. What is the difference between let and const? Can you guess? The name itself says const, which means it's a constant. So what does that tell you? I probably cannot change its value. It is a constant. If I try to change its value to something else, I should change the name to first name. Whenever I change the value, try to change the value, it will throw an error. As you can see, it says assignment to a constant variable. If I try to change a constant variable, it won't let me. I can't change the value. I can't change the type. I can't change anything. All right. So const is used when you know something's value shouldn't be changed. Do you really need it? No, you can also, if I replace this with let, nothing changes in my life. It is just a way to make your code stricter. I repeat, if you add const over here, if you ever try to change it, the program itself will stop. It will stop executing. It is a good thing for it to stop executing if you have ever changed something whose value should not be changed. That is the difference between TypeScript and JavaScript as well, right? You can write JavaScript code randomly, but TypeScript gives you strictness. Similarly, using const gives you strictness. It will not let any random code go through. If you try to change a value that is defined as const, it will stop the execution right there. If I write some code after this, console.log hello, this line of code will not run. If I write some code before it, that will run. Hello from before, hello from after. So what will happen is this line will run, this line will run, log will happen, and then the program would crash. This is not allowed. You can't change the value of a constant. So if I try to run this, as you can see, hello from before gets logged. Yahan tak control reached here. Then you try to change the value, so it threw error. This line never got executed, all right? That is what const lets you do. How is it different from let? You can change the value of let as much as possible, left, right, and center. Don't even worry about it. So that is how you define a variable. That is the simplest thing you have to do in a language. This is 0.1%, 0.01% of a language. If you can do this, there is a small assignment. Try it after the class and create a few variables for your favorite color, height in centimeters, whether or not you like a pizza. So you get comfortable with these three types: a string, a number, and a boolean. Simplest primitive types in JavaScript. Here again I show three primitive types and I introduce a fourth one called an array. An array lets you aggregate data together. In the real world, you will have millions of users. If you have a big website, you will have millions of users. Will you store million variables? Will you write code like this? Okay. Let user1 equal to Harkirat. Let user2 equal to Raman. Let user3 equal to some number, so on and so forth. Will you have million rows? Or would it be nice if you can write something like this? Let users equal to Harkirat, Raman, ASD. Which one is cleaner? This one, right? You have a single variable inside which you have all the values. This is slightly cleaner than this. And whatever you can do from here, you can do from here as well. For example, if I want to print the name of this variable, how will I print it? Console.log user1. If I have to print this Harkirat over here, how will I print it? Console.log users of 0. I repeat, users of 0. What does this bracket mean? It means get me the 0th value. Harkirat, this is the first value. Most languages, if you've done DSA, give you 0 based indexing, which means the first value is 0, second value is 1, third value is 2. If I try to run it, it prints Harkirat over here. It prints this value, users of 0 over here, Harkirat. What happens if I print users of 1? Can you guess? What will it print on the screen? Here I'm printing user 1 only, Harkirat. But here I'm printing users of 1. The first value of users is Raman. 0th value is Harkirat. First value is Raman. If I run this, what gets printed? Raman gets printed. What happens when I print 2? ASD gets printed. What happens when I put 3 over here? Can you guess? It prints undefined. It says, bhai, isme to 3 values thi. 0, 1 and 2. Nothing exists after this. If I add a 4th value, then of course, the 4th value gets printed. So, arrays let you store everything in a single variable compared to you writing them separately in multiple variables. We will be discussing this in more depth in the next slide, where we cover arrays and objects. For now, if you just understand these 3, that is also fine. If you understood arrays a little bit, even better. Next thing is operators. Basically lets you add, subtract, check if 2 variables are equal, check if true and false and operator or operator. Don't understand, that's fine. Let's write some code, let's do some assignments and understand operators and everything else we have discussed until now through these 2 assignments. Okay? To recap, we have learnt about how to define a variable. Totally ignore arrays if you did not understand. I showed you some operators. Okay, you can write code like this. Let sum equal to 10 plus 5. So if I write this code and log it, what do you think gets logged? 15 will get logged, right? 15 will get stored in sum and 15 gets logged over here. Similarly, if I write const, is male equal to male, can vote equal to, let age equal to 19. Let's say there is a person whose age is 19. Let can vote equal to age is greater than 18. I repeat, what have I done here? I have used the greater than operator. I have said your can vote will be either true or false based on if this condition is met. If age is greater than 18, then can vote will be true, else it will be false. This thing will return true or false based on if this condition is true or false. Is age greater than 18? Is 19 greater than 18? Indeed it is. So what gets printed? True gets printed over here. What if I make this value 5? Then false gets printed over here. What if I make this value 60? Then true gets printed over here. So that is what operators let you do. There are many operators. For example, there is this AND operator, there is this triple equal to operator, there is a double equal to operator. Let's quickly, write some code and then, through the code, try to understand some of these operators. All right. Before we write the code, let's understand one last thing, functions. Do you guys already know functions? Let me do a quick poll. Do we already understand what are functions? How many of us understand functions, don't understand functions? Based on that, I can, pick up the pace or decrease it. Okay, 77%. Okay, let's understand functions really quickly. A function, as the name suggests, lets you define, a function, which means, okay, bhai, you are supposed to do something. Please do the thing I'm telling you to do. And then I will use you many times. It is like you have created a worker of your own, a helper of your own. कि भाई तू ये काम करेगा. You are supposed to do this thing. And then you just keep calling that helper again and again. कि भाई greet कर. Go and greet John. Then go and greet Harkirat, let's say. Let's understand this a little bit better. There's a lot of code to go through here. So let me copy this code. Let me paste it over here. What does the code do? Forget this. It defines a function. Just how I defined variables. I can define a function like this. Okay, bhai, function, the name of my function. I repeat, this is the name of my function. My function is called greet. Let name, whatever, my function is called greet. When my Ramu Kaka, this is the name of my function, or let's say I have a helper. The name of my helper is Ramu Kaka. That is what you define over here, the name of the thing. And this is the inputs to Ramu Kaka. Okay, here you are supposed to get spices. Here is 20 rupees. So what is the input? To real world, I give him 20 rupees so he can get me spices. In this case, I give it a name. Here you are supposed to greet a person. You are supposed to say hello to the person. So I give it the name of the person. Here Harkirat ko hello bolna hai. And what does the function do? It returns you another string with hello appended to the name. I repeat, it returns you hello Harkirat in this case. You might ask, Harkirat, this sounds so dumb. Why would you not do this directly? Okay, let answer equal to hello Harkirat. Why are you not doing this? Why are you creating a separate function which does the same thing? It just adds hello in front of the name. And the answer is, if you define a function once, if you tell Ramu Kaka once, if you train them once, you are supposed to do this thing, you can call them again and again. Okay, hey, now greet Raman. Answer 3. Now greet Kirat. So on and so forth. You've told them how to do something once and you ask them to do it again and again. You don't have to repeat the logic. If I ever want to change from hello to namaste, I can just change it in one place. And all 3 of these greetings would change. Let's try that. If I click on run, nothing happens. Can you guess why? Because I am just taking this string and putting it in a variable. I am not logging it yet. I have not written console.log answer, console.log answer 2, console.log answer 3. All right. As soon as I write these 3 and click on run, it says Namaste Harkirat, Namaste Raman, Namaste Kirat. And if I replace this with hello, it says hello Harkirat, hello Raman, hello Kirat. So you define a function once, you call it multiple times, you log the value. Let me change this function a bit. Let me code the other function. Then you would do the next 2 assignments and I will catch the Telegram predator. And then, seems for a lot of you, this is easy. So you can drop off after that if you were just waiting for that. So let me quickly define one more function for you called sum. Now I have a new Kamla Devi auntie or Kamla auntie. She's supposed to take 2 variables, A and B. She's supposed to take 2 variables now, not 1. She has more work to do. And she's supposed to return the sum of it. Let sum equal to A plus B, return sum. So what is Kamla Devi doing over here? What is our sum function supposed to do? Let's call this total sum to avoid any conflicts. She calculates the sum of the 2 variables she gets and returns the value. I repeat, if I ever call sum with, let's say 1, 2 or 3, 4, first time she receives 1 and 2, she finds the sum of 1 plus 2, that is equal to 3. She returns 3, it gets logged over here. And similarly, when I call sum of 3, 4 over here, she gets A and B, sums the value, returns it. If I run this, I see 3 and 7 printed on the screen because sum of these two is 3 these two is 7. So this is how you define a function. It has a name, it has arguments, can be more than one, and it has something it does and then returns the value. You are offloading your work to someone else. कि भाई तेरे को एक बार सिखा दिया ना, I have taught you once, now do this thing again and again, I will call you again and again. It's like getting an employee, teaching them something and then giving them tasks again and again. कि भाई do this, do this, do this, do this. That is what a function lets you do. The name itself is function. You're supposed to function a certain way. You're supposed to do something. Now there are 2 assignments and the next 10 minutes, maybe 15. Take 15 minutes, try to solve these 2 assignments. Meanwhile, I will keep talking a bit. Okay, what am I doing? How am I catching the Telegram predator? And then, let's find their name. Let's try to call them. If we find their number, go from there. All right. Cool. Chat in case anyone has any initial thoughts. Do you guys know what I'm doing now? Do you have any idea? You saw some live debugging here. Still no idea. All right. Cool. A lot of people have finished the assignments. That is good. That is good. That is great. I cannot teach that. If I teach that, then the problem goes away, right? That's the only thing I cannot share. There's like secret sauce over there. Now he's calling me, bichara. He did not sound shady, bro. It's like very easy to tell when, based on how someone's talking. So I don't want him to disturb. What if the scammer screen records? Fingerprint is still there. No, I don't know. Actually, I'll have to try that. I haven't tried that ever. It might not work if they screen record actually. If they download it and upload it immediately is when it might work. It does not, it will most probably not work if you screen record, but I could be wrong. I'll need a video to be able to tell. All right. Hopefully you guys were able to do assignment 1 and assignment 2. They were simple only. Let me do one of them. This one I already did. The other assignment is called Can Vote. Also, if you want to drop off now, drop off if you feel this is easy. Or, if you can sprint through the recording, feel free to. No more fun happening today. That was all the fun for today. So if this is simple, drop off. Go to the next slide, basically the object slide. If you understand that, then, you're good to go. This complex types slide. If you understand this, you're good to go. All right. Cool. So assignment number 2 was, let me quickly open Replit. Node.js. Write a function called canVote that returns true or false if the age of a user is greater than 18. So I have to define a function called canVote. And as you can see, I'm writing it a little bit fast because I have some muscle memory. You might have to look at syntax from time to time, but if you write this, enough number of times, you'll be able to understand what is happening. Return true, or have this as muscle memory, so you can just write it like this without relying on an AI. All right. Else return false. Let answer equal to canVote of 19 and then console.log answer. What do you think this will log over here? What will canVote return? Is 19 greater than 18? How will the control happen? Firstly, control will reach here. The thread will reach here. It will be like, acha, function has been defined. It will not go inside the function. I repeat, when you execute this program, JavaScript will understand, acha, this function has been defined. It will store it somewhere. It will not run it. It will come over here. Then it will directly come over here. It will not run any of these lines. Here, JavaScript will be like, acha, I should call canVote. So the control will reach here. It will check, is 19 greater than 18? That is indeed true, which means the control will reach this statement and it will return true. This true will get stored in the answer variable and it will get logged over here. Hopefully you understand it structurally. One common feedback I see is, Harkirat, I can see it and understand. मुझे देख के समझ आ जाता है. I'm not able to code it. So 3-4 times code it by watching a video or watching this and then try to code it yourself. All right. These were the 2 assignments here. If, else, and loops are the only 2 things left in this simple section. Let me quickly take you through them. We will do a poll after that. If you understand, we will go to the next slide. Else we can practice more, because the next slide, especially objects, are a little hard for complete beginners. So first let's understand if else's. I already used an if else over here. So you might be a little jarred when I wrote this code. But if else lets you, as the name suggests, run some code based on a condition. I repeat, language agnostic, exists in every language. Java has it, Rust has it, every language has ifs and else's. Whenever the control reaches here, it will check, is this condition true? If this condition is true, then this gets logged, else this gets logged. I repeat, if the condition is true, then control reaches here. Now here you can write a lot of code, or you can write, some basic code like I have written over here. For example, if I copy this is actually, slightly easier to understand than everything I've done over here. I can simply run this. Okay, I'm going to call the can vote function. Control will reach here. If age is greater than equal to 18, then this will get logged. Else this will get logged. I'm not returning any value. I'm not using any value. If I run this, it says you are an adult. If I call can vote with 15, it says you are a minor. So call the function, and inside the function have separate branches of code that runs. If this is true, then this runs, else this runs. I can also do something like this. If age is less than 18, then I run this. So if age is greater than equal to 18, then we do this. If age is less than 18, then we do this. Cool. Run. You are a minor. And the other. All right. Lastly, loops, which are again a language agnostic concept, exist in every language out there. What do loops let you do? Loops let you run a certain logic again and again and again. Just like a while back I showed you, you can define an array like this. Let users equal to Harkirat, Raman, Diljit. Once you have these three users, what if you want to print their names? What will you do? Will you write this code, console.log users of 0, and then users of 1, and then users of 2? This will print Harkirat, Raman and Diljit. But if this array becomes bigger, what will you do? You will also write code here. If I have to introduce another element here, I will have to introduce another line of code over here, 3. When I add, whatever, some random name over here, let's say Rihanna. Then 4 get printed. What if I could write something like, how do I close this? Like this. For let I equal to 0. I will explain what this means. I less than 4. I plus plus. Now I've written a lot of code over here, but this 3 lines of code do the same thing as these 4 lines of code. Here I had manually written a statement 4 times. Here I'm not writing the statement 4 times. I am running a for loop which will run this line again and again. It is a loop. What does loop mean? It will keep running again and again. So if for I equal to 0, which means start off from 0, this section, the first section, is called the initiation section. When you write a for loop, you describe 3 sections in the for loop: the initiation section, the condition section, I repeat, the condition section, and then lastly, this is the wrong word, but this probably has a better proper term, but okay, let's call it the incrementation section for now. When a for loop runs, first time when the control reaches here, I repeat, first time when the control reaches here, this section runs. You initialize I to 0. Then you check, is this condition true? I repeat, सबसे पहले this will run. Whenever control reaches here, ठीक है, variable gets defined. Control reaches here. Initiation section. Initiation मतलब पहली बार. First time when it runs this specific code once. I gets initialized to 0. Then it does the condition section in every loop. I repeat, this section runs, I is less than 4 runs, and then it goes in here. If this condition is true, I repeat, initiation runs, conditional check happens. Is I less than 4? Is 0 less than 4? It is. Then this line of code runs. Console.log I users of, what is I? I is 0. Then the last section runs, incremental. What was the series of steps? Pehle this ran, then this ran. If this returned a true, then this ran. And then the fourth thing happened, this thing right here. This is the flow of events that happen for the first time. Now initiation will not happen. I plus plus happened. I became what? Bruh. Sorry. I was 0. Users of 0 got printed. I plus plus happened. I became 1. I less than 4 is true. 1 less than 4 is true. It is true. After initiation, again the conditional logic ran. Then users of 1 got rendered. Users of 0 got rendered first. Users of 1 got rendered next or printed next. Then again this section comes. I becomes 2. Is 2 less than 4? It is. Then the control again reaches here. Users of 2 gets printed. This line of code, we are just trying to, rather than writing 100 lines of code, we are trying to write a loop that prints the same lines again. It does the same work as these lines do, which is why, increment happens, condition gets checked. I becomes 3. Is 3 less than 4? It is. Users of 3 gets rendered. Then increment happens, I becomes 4. Is 4 less than 4? 4 is not less than 4. 4 is equal to 4, which means the loop breaks out and control comes out of the for loop. This is how a for loop works. Go to YouTube, search for how does a for loop work. It is the same in every language. Every language has an initiation step and a condition step, and then something you do after every loop. This is something you do before a loop runs. Only if this returns true, you run the loop. This is something you do after the loop has run. And then again you check the condition, run the code, condition, run, so on and so forth until this condition is not met. Let's try to run this. What does it print? It prints the same thing. Harkirat, Raman, Diljit and ASD. What is the benefit? The benefit is, if I ever add a new user, I repeat, if I ever add a new user, Rihanna, then all I have to do is increase this to 5. I have to just make a small change. Number of lines of code is still 3. If I run this, I now see Rihanna printed as well. I can go one step further and replace 5 with let total users equal to users.length. 5 with total users. If I replace 5 with the total users, as you can see, 5 got printed. And if I add a new name, saying let's say 6 get printed. I don't even have to change this anymore. This has become dynamic. Users.length is a attribute. Now what is an attribute we'll come to, but if you run this, it returns you in this case 6, and rather than hard coding 6 over here, I say total users. I is less than total users I plus plus. I log the thing. If I run it, I see 6 values here. If I take this down to just one value in here, only one value gets printed. All right, that's a brief of for loops. Do we understand this? Now it's a time to take a small pause, and if we understand this, then we can decide what to do next. If this was too much already, then we'll cover objects and arrays in a slow paced offline video. If this is okay, then I can cover arrays and objects right now, but we need to finish arrays and objects really quickly so we can move on. All right, are we good to go, guys? Do we understand this? Great. 95% is beautiful. So in that case, at least let's do a brief of some complex types, and if we can understand them even better, then I don't need to create an offline video. Until now, we have chosen very simple primitive types. By the way, I'm happy to, we can redo the user ID thing at 9:30. Let me just finish the class and then we can happy to do it again if you feel it's interesting. I'll just recalculate the thing. All right. Complex types are types that aggregate more than one data. Array is a good answer for this. Okay, what are arrays? Arrays are a complex type. They let you aggregate. There's also a better word for it, cumulative type, aggregate type, basically let you store multiple values than one. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 values in the same variable. That is good. Objects let you do something similar. If you've heard of maps in Java or maps in C++, similar to that. Arrays in JavaScript, I repeat. Let me quickly give arrays in JS is similar to arrays / vectors in C++ and vectors in Rust, and whatever array list in Java maybe. or something like that in Java. I'm not sure about Java. And similarly, objects in JS are similar to C++ map in C++ and hash map in Rust, and it's the same thing here, hash map in Java. So if you have used any of these languages and if you understand this, objects are the same thing. It's what's called a key value pair. This is a common jargon you will hear throughout. A key value pair. What is a key value pair? As the name suggests, it has a key, it has a value. Key value का pair है. An object in JavaScript is a collection of key value pairs. Collection of key value pairs. This is one key value pair, name Harkirat. This is another key value pair, age 19. Where each key is a string and each value can be any valid JavaScript data type, including another object. Ignore the second statement for now. We will come to it at the end of the slide. For now, it is a key value pair, which means I can define it like this. Let user equal to object. Name is Harkirat, age is 19. Something like this. And then if I want to print the name, I can write Harkirat's age is user.age. It prints the age of the user. Rather than doing this, okay, let user1 name equal to Harkirat. Let user1 age equal to 20. Let user1 gender equal to male. Rather than doing this, I can aggregate data. Let user1 equal to name Harkirat, age 20, and then gender male. So it just lets you aggregate data slightly better. How do I get the name? How will I print the name of the user? User dot name. I can either use this syntax or I can write user of name. More specifically, you should do something like this: user1 of name or user1 dot name. If I run this, you will see, let me clean this up a bit. I see Harkirat is printed, Harkirat is printed. Similarly, if I want to print the user's age, I can print users of age. In Java, you do user.get or user.set. Similarly, here you do users of this thing or user dot the key. For example, if I want the name, then user1 dot name. Let's do some assignments to understand this a little bit better. Assignment number 1 is write a function that takes a user as an input and greets them with their name and age. Can you quickly write this? I have a user. I have to define a function called greet, which takes the user as an input and greets them. Maybe it does a console.log hi space plus user.name plus your age is plus 19. Now here I have introduced another concept called string concatenation. I repeat, string concatenation means adding, concatenating. Concatenate means adding, joining multiple strings together. That is exactly what I am doing over here. If I run this code, it says nothing right now. Can you guess why? I have not called the function. If I call the function is when you will see hi Harkirat, your age is 19. Hi user.name, your age is 19. Oh, user.age. Sorry, this is the better way to do it. Now, if I change this to Raman and change this to, whatever, 60, then the thing that gets printed from the function is hi Raman, your name is 60. So now our function is not accepting a primitive type. It is not accepting a string or a number. It is accepting a complex type called an object. And I'm trying to greet the user. The only extra thing I've done is string concatenation. There are cleaner ways to do this, but let's not go there right now. I can do something like this also if this feels weird. Hi console.log user.name and another one, your age is, and then the fourth thing. Can you try the next assignment now? The last one maybe try. There is a last assignment at the end. Hi Raman, your age is this. So if string concatenation feels weird, just log 4 statements for now. It is fine. All right. Now try the third assignment. Second assignment पहले करनी पड़ेगी. So third one requires the second one to be there. Write a function that takes a new object as an input. New object, what does that mean? With new object, it will not just have name and age. It will have a gender as well. Okay. Now given this boilerplate code, given this starter code, can you write the code where you add the age also and greet the user with a gender? It says, hi Mr. Harkirath, hi Mrs. Harkirath. And if you want to add other things there, feel free to. We don't judge. You can change the gender to be whatever you want, and just greet the person that way. Write this assignment given this basic boilerplate code. Let me look at questions until then. The only thing that's left after this, after you do assignment number 2 and assignment number 3, is an array of objects and objects of objects. Not too difficult, we will get there. But first finish this. I will give you guys 2 minutes. Given this starter point, I am going to quickly look at Q&A. Oh wow, it's like while creating inside a console, while creating a variable inside the console, it's returning undefined. But why is it not returning inside the function? That's just the browser console. The browser console will give you that extra undefined from time to time. I also had the same question like you a few years ago. I also googled and found out it is just printing what that function is returning, which is why, since most of these lines of code over here are just you calling something, nothing gets printed. And that only happens in this console. It does not happen, here on Replit when you actually compile. It doesn't happen locally on Node.js or anywhere as well. It's just the browser console that prints that extra thing. Still a very small project for Solana Hackathon. It is fine. Do not hesitate for Solana Hackathon. Do it. Also, I'm trying to do a on-site. Big trying over there. Okay, most probably in Bangalore. A week of us trying to understand whatever Solana or something else. It's small though. It's like 40 people. So 40 batches. We will have to do it for like a week. If that happens, then wahan pe also I'll be teaching Solana. This Thursday I'm doing an extra class on Solana with the foundation. There's already a mini this thing happen, and I'll share more details on. But Thursday there's another class where I'll teach some more Solana, and then, as I said, it'll be happening. I'll try on site as well. Request of special video on Linux setup like NeoVim from scratch. NeoVim is already in ad hoc session. So if you go to app.headexperts.com, go to Neo ad hoc videos. It's in the wrong folder. That's why it's not always visible. But go to ad hoc classes and go to Meetup or something like that. Yeah, go to Meetup. You'll find NeoVim setup over here. You should be able to see this if you have code to. It has the whole video on setting up NeoVim locally. If there are same variable user greet function will know the object will pass the type of variable. If there are two variables with the same variable name, user, and we pass it to a greet function, how will function know with that object should be passed other type of variable? You have two variables with the same name. You cannot have two variables with the same name. If you do let user equal to something and then try to have another variable with the same name, number one, it will just start to give you an error because let doesn't let you redeclare. But if you did do this also, then user will get overridden over here. So this value is no longer valid. So you can't have two different values for the same variable in any language. Array can have values of different types. I can define let arr equal to Harkirath 21 true. You can do this. This gets even funnier when we reach TypeScript, but we'll get there when we get there. I cannot teach the fingerprint thingy. If I teach it, then there's no point of it. Then everyone will know how to get around it, right? But yeah, when will we start React? Oh, in a while. The pace at which we are going, unless I record a lot of slow offline videos, probably a month before we reach React. I'm taking Q&A in the Q&A section. Can you please give weekly roadmap of the course? Yes, someone created something yesterday, like a calendar. Weekly roadmap, say you mean that only, right? This week we're doing this. Yes. Maybe like a week we should have it. If you're not able to join Discord, just ping Rookie. All right. Or, KPI. Oh, you can't. honeydexdevs@gmail.com. Mail there, he'll add you. All right. Cool. Were we able to do the assignment? Do we understand objects? Can we move to some more complex objects and then call it a day today? What we're going to learn next might be a little jarring for beginners. So, practice this a lot in the next week. But do we understand all of this? Do we understand objects? We do understand objects. Great. 92% is great. So if you're in the 8%, just ignore the next section for now. Watch the offline video again, code this, and then come to it. Next thing I wanted to share was you can have an array of objects as well. I repeat, you can have array of different types. Someone just asked this. You can do that. I can do a console.log arr of 2. And what does it print? It prints true because arr of 0, 1, 2 is true. But the third value can also be an object. I repeat what have I done. Rather than true, I create an object, name Harkirat, age 21. And if I print arr of 2, the object gets printed. If I do const val1 equal to arr of 2, it is the same as me doing const val2 equal to name Harkirat, age 21. So this and this are the same thing. I can just grab arr of 2 over here, which is this thing, and store it in val1. So if I run, log whatever val1 and val2, you will see both of them render the same thing, which is name Harkirat, age 21. So this will, what's the right word? This can get very nested. This object, the array can have an object which can have an array. Okay, addresses, yes, cities. Where does Harkirat live? Let's say, let's say Delhi, and Chandigarh, and then Bangalore. So what do I have? I have an array which has an object, which has a key, which is an array, which could also have an object. Okay, city, or let's say different country, then country Malaysia, and then city whatever, Kuala Lumpur. Now I have an array which has the third key as the object, which has a key over here called cities, whose value is an array, and the array has another object. So you can go as deep as you want. Array of object of object of array of object of object of object, and keep going. So, and if this feels jarring, which it would, even if I look at it, this seems very jarring. You shouldn't write code like this. This is very ugly code, very unreadable. But basically what is happening, if I do a console.log of arr of 2, what gets printed? This very big object gets printed. This very big object gets printed. If I do arr of 2.cities, I repeat, arr of 2 is this whole object. Arr of 2.cities is this thing. So it will print the array over here. Run. I see the array. If I do arr of runs of cities of 0, 1, 2, 3, it will print this object right here. Country Malaysia, city Kuala Lumpur. And if I do this dot city, it will print Kuala Lumpur. So I can keep going further and further, but do we understand this is a slightly ugly to read logic as well? You can write it, you can go as deep as you want, doesn't mean you should. And but that also does mean if you look at this code, you should now understand hopefully what it is doing is just having a very complex nested object. What does nesting mean? Nesting means एक चीज के अंदर दूसरी चीज के अंदर दूसरी चीज. City, array inside object inside array inside object, like that. Do we understand nested objects? Can we try this assignment? Is there an assignment? Assignment says write a function that takes a user and then it finishes. User, what would have been this assignment? Takes a user. Let me give an assignment right now, and then try it out while I try to debug the Telegram username. Create a function that takes an array of objects as input and returns the users whose age is greater than 18 and are male. ये सही है. This is the problem statement. Let me copy this and paste this here. They define a function that takes an array of users, so user array as input, and then returns just the male users whose age is greater than 18. So if the input is this, users equal to an array of objects, name Harkirat, age 21, male, gender male. So I should be included. I am a male who's 18 plus. And then let's say there's another entry for a female named Priya who's of age, but since they're a female, they shouldn't be returned. And then maybe a third person who is male but is not of age, so on and so forth. So given this input, this should return an array that just has this guy. So here you will have to initialize a new array. You will have to push to a new array. These are two things I haven't introduced. Or if you want to get fancy, you can use the filter function inside an array. These are the two approaches to take. Here also you will require some googling. Here also you will require some googling if you're completely new. To try this out, take a screenshot of this because I will have to change the screen again. Let me take questions for 5 minutes, and then we'll see if we can try one more time to find the person. If not, that's fine. Cool. Feel free to take a screenshot. I'm looking at Q&A, and then we'll go from there. Other than that, the class is done. Feel free to drop off also. Nothing too interesting happening after this. When does garbage collector run in JavaScript? So in JavaScript, there's this whole, I read through this, whatever. I was reading through this. I'd never read through this. I read through this when I was going through Rust. How does garbage collection actually works? And in the Bangalore quiz, we had, some algorithm. What is it called? Sweeping something algorithm that, is used for garbage collection in Java. So from what I understood there was it maintains a tree, and when as functions execute and variables become unused, for example, any variable you define here, as soon as this function exits, that variable is no longer needed. So every few seconds it has a tree in which it finds what all nodes are invalid now, and whatever nodes are invalid, it cleans them up. It collects garbage from time to time, and when that happens, I think the thread doesn't run, which is why garbage collection makes JavaScript slow. But itna hi I know how garbage collection works in Java and JavaScript. I read this recently, only like 2 months ago. Hi Kirat, who and should I reach out for the bounty I won? Hey Varsha, you should reach out to Rookie, or I said you should reach out to Akash, but I don't know if he's on Discord. I will ask Akash, but I don't know. We'll just ping you on Twitter. That's best. Akash, please ping everyone on Twitter, get their UPIs, and we'll just UPI transfer it. We will stick to 2-hour classes. Anyways, after that, we just do questions only. Sorry, I missed to the bottom here. Harkiyat, I have sent. Oh, okay. Pirate videos. Thank you. The problem is, as I said, yesterday 20 people sent. They all were from the same person only, so it just gets leaked once, and everything else is on. After that is that the same. So we just lead. It all leads to the same user basically. Could you give access to Photo as course is slow? We'll see. Ping Rookie and talk to him. Who am I talking to here? Pratik, talk to Rookie. Bounties will be distributed on what basis? PRs and random ad hoc things like these. What is a bounty? Can you upload topic-wise weekly schedule? I don't know how far along I will already know, but sure, let me do that. Let me find a rough one. It's possible we don't follow it end to end. Until cohort 2, I would decide on Friday what needs to be done on Saturday. Now will be a little more structured. Current slide is not seeded. How to fix this issue? Let's see. Complex types, write a function that takes a user. No, this is itna only. Let me just replace this with this. And we're good to go. Alright. Itna hi tha slide, nothing else. Alright. Some big assignment for today. Big assignment. This one is, if you're a beginner, then this is big, using filters, and I have a video on this. I will post it. Filters, maps. If you really want to get harder, then use reduce. Using these 3 functions. If a beginner, then this is good for you. If you're not a beginner, then if you're intermediate, then probably just prep for the hackathon. Write some code for the hackathon. If you know React, then first 3-4 weeks, just build something for the hackathon, please. If you're advanced, then just open GitHub. People have already started contributing. You saw the first bug over here. At least try to set up daily code locally, and try to see if you can recreate the issue. Even though as you can see, I don't know if I just put the slides in the wrong order. I don't think that happened. If you open JavaScript 101, it opens the right slide. This is the slide 1, but it for some reason is stored as, or is shown as 3 over here. So there's some bug here. So if you're completely advanced, I would go here and fix it. This will have a decentish bounty. Decent is like $50 to $100, nothing too big. All right. Notion doc. I don't have access to this Notion doc. DSA 206053. CC'd you too. Okay. Which email did you CC me on? I'll happy to look at it right after Aditya Karki. Complete all the assignments. That's great. What will you do next week if you've already completed the assignments? Do all of this. Try the front end assignments. Create as many landing pages as you can. The Zerodha landing page, the other landing page. Try creating this page that you see right here. See if it becomes harder. This is much harder to build. There is code coloring here. How will you add that? There's code coloring here. How will you add that? Things like these. So if you really want a challenge, here it is. Cool. No other bounties today. Can we solve the assignments for a loop? Pretty straightforward. We can solve this assignment using a loop. Yeah, you can. But can you use filters, which are the better way to do it? Minimum tech stack required for cohort 2 week 16 Paytm project. Next. Mongo, Postgres, Postgres Prisma, next, good to go. Postgres Prisma, not even next. I think that project is in React. So React, Express, Postgres Prisma, you're good to go. All right, guys. Were you guys able to do the assignment? Let me also finish it. So, you know the solution, but a few people already did it, which is you define a new variable, arr2, define it to be an empty array. Then you iterate over the original array. For let I equal to 0, I less than r dot length I r plus plus. If arr of I dot gender equal to male and arr of I dot age is greater than 18, then you do arr2 dot push arr of I, and then you return arr2. So what am I doing? The fuck happened here? Oh, that was this thing. Let me call the function console.log. What was it called? Function solve. Let me call the function solve of users. I mean, this is might feel slightly complicated, but I'm just calling whatever this returns. I can also do this. Const answer equal to this, and then console.log answer. If I run this, I don't know if you can see, but what gets printed on the screen is this thing right here, which is just Harkirat and 21 and male. Other two people don't. If I increase the age of Raman, then that guy gets printed as well. That is the easy way to do it. Is you define a new array and then you iterate over the old array and find the right places or the right values and then push them to this array, then return this array. This is the easy way to do it. There is another way to do it if you want a challenge, is using filtering or using filters in JS or whatever JS array. Try that and then go from there. All right, cool guys. We will almost call it here. I don't waste any time. I'm happy to also let's do a poll. Okay, do you want to? Should we call it here? Should we try to find the Telegram user one more time? Yes or no? Should we try to find the user? Yes or no? If no, then we'll just call it and go from there. Okay, that's a very heavy yes. So cool. Again, you guys will just get bored. That's the only reason I do not want to do it, because I have to not share screen. But okay, let me try it out now. Cool. So this was the video. Accelerator. Where did it go? Yeah. Again, I think it's too big for it to be a right number, but let's see. Oh, that isn't. 45,521. Found it, guys. Found it. My bad. Alrighty, we're coming for you. So the last guy was right. My sixth sense is so good. I could hear him and tell that person was right. But this person most probably isn't. 45,521 is the ID of this person. Question is, what is their name? This person's name is imjoy.eth, which tells me he paid via Ethereum, so we might not have his payment information. But hey, we have his number, which doesn't look sort of fake, but let's see. It starts with 98921. You guys did not hear anything. Oh. Sorry, I totally forgot I was on mic here. Right. Time to open chat. Could be a fake number. I am calling. He's not picking up. His name is imjoy.eth. His number is this. He's logged in my number, which means this number is valid. 69. That's the one. Yeah, I don't know if his number isn't. Oh, wait. I hear something. Let's see if he has an email or something of that sorts. He might have paid by Ethereum, which means no trace. I can just block his account, which is good, but nothing more. Let's see, phone number is this thing right here. Yera Darwin. Yeah, he has a very weird email as well. His name is imjoy.eth. He's from Andhra Pradesh. He bought the right. I mean, the video that was leaked from the cohort, he has the same cohort. He paid by Razorpay, which is good. So I can track his payment details and go from there. So yeah, cool man. I'm Joy. I am coming for you. And of course we will block their account. Let's see, email. All right, that's it, guys. I don't think we have anything. I can try one more time, but let's not dox him. Let's not do anything else. It's fine. Oh, hello. Oh, hey, मिल गया call. Nice tune he has. He's not picking up though. We'll cover system design enough to as we do projects. Projects. What are the minimum tech stack required for being building the opinions market? For an opinions market, you should understand how you can create tokens. Unfortunately, you'll have to create tokens out of thin air and go from there. You'll have to create a token, and the value of that token will go up and down. You'll have to create liquidity. It's a hard problem basically. You have to understand liquidity pools to be able to do it. Why not create an app or website which doesn't allow users to screen record or pirate? You can do that, but what worst case the person will do this? Netflix has everything, right? Still Netflix gets pirated, so that is not a solution. We have tried that. We've tried DRM, we've tried screen recording. नहीं होता उससे कुछ. There are ways to get around it. I've myself done it. Like I know I've tried to break these in the past. So the only way you can do it is have very aggressive. Every user gets their own video, which just the only problem there is it gets very expensive, both in terms of compute. Like for example, right now it's taking us around 7 hours to transcode one video. I'm doing it on my Mac right now, but if I will eventually not do it on my Mac, I will do it on AWS, which will before it used to take 1 hour. Now it takes 7 hours, so it's 7 times the transcoding cost. And as you saw, human effort to do whatever we're doing, so it's just hard. It's just expensive basically. But yeah. All right. Can I provide free assignment solutions? Yeah, that's fine. Video is the only thing. People created whole fucking Notion docs from the last quote of every video and Google. That's fine. It's not pirating. Only the videos are a little weird. Everything else is totally fine. If you want to write your experience, post it on GitHub. Last cohort, someone has a full GitHub of 35 weeks with everything written out. So don't worry about that. That's not piracy. That's totally fine. Cool, guys. I think we'll call it. A few other errors and a few things. What is he saying? Someone has pasted their code. That looks right. Aman, I'm using my elder brother's account. I asked about this in Zapier project, and you said there's no issue using it. However, when I tweet anything, you will not see it. I will see it. Why will I not see it? When you tweet it, I will see it. Just tag me. My name is Aman. I'm using elder brother. Okay, answer that. Can repo maintainers close the issue that has been resolved? They're not doing that. Let me ping them. I've told them to clean all repos. Like all of them have too many open PRs. 1 or 2 are valid. Everything else we'll just clean, so we have a starting good clean slate to kick things off from. All right, let's see if we have more questions. I want to contribute to GitHub Analytics. How can I do that? Open the GitHub, start to contribute. Bounty Google will release. We'll release a Google Doc is what Akash is telling me. And Akash, 4 people on Twitter, you have their Twitters, get in touch and get their UPIs. And we can just UPI them the $25 for today. Alrighty, I think that's it. I will see you guys next week now, and I will see you guys in a few offline videos. We'll do CSS and offline videos. I'll cover filtering, maps, things like these. I'll probably warm you up before the next week, because next week is going to be a little bit harder, because we'll introduce callbacks, which are hard. We'll introduce asynchronous programming, which is hard. We'll introduce the architecture of JavaScript and maybe promises. So next week is going to be a little bit hard. Other than that, if you're amongst the 4 people who found a bounty, just ping 100x devs Twitter and Akash will help you from there. Looking at a few more. I just wear black because I like black. BTC is dumping. Okay, that sounds sad. Perpetual hashing, temporal hashing. What about that? Bounty for each 80. I don't get it. Random wedding watermark match the certificate with your record. That sounds pretty close. Sorry, Ritik Kulkarni 2001. That sounds pretty close to what we're doing. Yes, and yes, there are. If you screen record, as I said, it will get a little hard. Probably, boss. There are. I don't know. We'll see. We'll find more videos and we'll see where it goes. All right. With that, we'll call it. I will see you guys next week and in a few offline videos. Have a good night, guys. Bye bye.